delighted to be sharing this, ideas with some of our nation's brightest minds. Today being the eve of a landmark inauguration in our nation's history. It is my hope that the ideas we'll be sharing today will indeed stimulate positive change around the globe. In the early 90s, upon the completion of my secondary school education, I left my village somewhere in Kogi State for Kaduna in search of greener pastures. And after several months of hard work, lifting pans filled with concrete, I eventually got a job in the factories of Ariwa Textiles PLC in Kaduna. Now, I remember my first day walking through those massive metal gates leading into the factory, the second weaving mill to be precise. I remember the unwelcoming wave of heat that greeted my adolescent face then. I also remember the head-cracking sound, as shuttles sped from one machine to the other, weaving bundles upon bundles of clothing. I remember the 2 weeks of intensive training to qualify as a young weaver. Unfortunately, I never did get to qualify as a young weaver. My friends and I made it as sweepers. It was our responsibility to keep the factory clean. By factory standards, ours was the laziest of jobs, but yet the most coveted. Because once we come into the factory by 8 a.m., by 11 a.m. we're done sweeping, and we could sneak to the locker room, under some tree, under some flower, thinking about the future, discussing what the future held for young textile workers like us. We used to be called massacre workers in Kapuri and the Kaduna South axis those days. And I remember vividly my friends, young, energetic, running from one end of the machine to the other to ensure smooth operation. I remember the mixed feelings with which we greeted payday when it was time to collect our salaries. We were happy on the one hand because indeed we were collecting our salaries, but on the other hand we were sad because of the number of creditors that were waiting for us at the gate. The Basira's man of machines whose items we had collected on credit the previous month were waiting for us at the gate, and of course we would have to stay 4 to 5 hours in the factory just to avoid them. Amidst all of this, the heat and all of that, the factory was a great place. It was a place that great dreams were conceived. I left the factories of Ariwa Textiles PLC 3 years after to pursue my dreams at Zaria University, Kano. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of textile workers, massacre workers, got to pursue their dreams. A lot of those dreams coalesced into streams of disappointment, primarily driven by fear, and that's apathy for risk. The factory became the ceiling over their dreams. Government. The areas called Kapuri, Kirikania, Mekera, and in the last probably 5 decades, that area is to be a beehive of activities. That area is in the mornings, 6 a.m., 5:30 6 when people are going to work on the first shift in the morning. You can see a sea of human heads. In the afternoon, when it's a 2 o'clock shift that's coming in, you also see the same thing. But I don't know if anybody has visited that area of late. It's a shadow of itself. I'm hoping that, okay, the slide is up. So this is the factory, the second wooden mill of Ariwa Textiles PLC, where dreams were conceived and dreams forestalled. I took this picture about 2 weeks ago. Does this picture make any sense to any of us here? Does this look like a factory? Over 40 to 50 years, this factory space, the second weaving mill that I'm showing to you today, used to house over 1,000 weaving machines and over 1,000 workers who ran 3 shifts a day, making men ends meet and contributing to the economy of our dear nation. Or here it is today. How did it get here? Of course, the factory closed down in the early 2000s, and young men who had no jobs to do, who were desperately in search of sources of livelihood and could not get any, vandalized Ariwa Textiles PLC. Can I have the second slide, please? Here is the second slide. This same factory. The third slide. Now, I don't know how many of us are familiar with this picture. The same youths that vandalized the factories of Ariwa Textiles PLC because they had no jobs. And these guys, what is the difference between them? For those of you that do not know anything about those pictures, this happened sometimes this year, some couple of months or weeks ago, during the xenophobic attack in South Africa. The young man on the ground, Emmanuel Zefuli, was attacked by a group of youth in South Africa. Is there a difference between the guys who attacked the factories of Ariwa Textiles PLC and these guys? No, if you ask me, there is no difference. These guys, can I have the next picture? These same guys, these guys who attacked Emmanuel Zefuli and the guys who vandalized my Ariwa Textiles PLC all live in slums like this. Can I have the next picture, please? Their children all live in slums like this. They go to school this week hungry and malnourished. These people are people who live in absolute poverty. Globally, there are over 4 billion of them living at the bottom of the pyramid. That's where they are trapped. And there's no hope whatsoever of opting out for these people. The annual per capita income based on purchasing power parity in US dollar is $1,500, which is the barest minimum that somebody can live in a meaningful life on. For over 1 billion of these people, per capita income is less than $1. What sort of life can these people live? Yes, we want these people to be happy. These people, over 4 billion of them at the bottom of the pyramid, are living in a cesspit of anger and frustration. And for those of us who are social scientists, there's a direct correlation between frustration and anger. If you're a student of the frustration hydration, if you understand the frustration hydration hypothesis, you will understand that it only took a trigger for these South Africans to start what they decided to do, to start the violence. And they found that trigger in the Zulu King. Now today, we think a lot of us insulted the South Africans. In Kaduna, a lot of people are insulting the young boys that have attacked the factories. But have we paused to think, what is the trigger? You might think we're in our comfort zones today, but I assure you, very soon, triggers will start pulling up in the bottom of the pyramid and to begin to erupt. So what do we do? Do we look at government for solutions? No. The next 2 slides, please. The last time I checked, governments all over the world are going broke. Governments cannot provide solutions to the problem, the social problem at the bottom of the pyramid. Can international aid organizations bring any solution whatsoever? No. The last time I checked, the third world countries are but a graveyard of international development. So wherein is the solution? Okay, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, the next one. The next one. That is the solution. You might be wondering, how come this is the solution? The human brain, the gray matter. That is the solution to the societal problems of the 21st century. We need to tax our brains more. We are not doing it. We need to provide solutions to society's problems. We need to think more. We need to see these problems as opportunities. In the health sector, what opportunities are there? Beyond waiting for governments to take the lead, how can we as individuals take the lead? Is it possible not to begin to, as businessmen, not to begin to look at profits alone? Can we begin to look at profits, people, and the planet? What are the possibilities? It is happening, it's beginning to happen in some parts of the globe already. People are beginning to think through society's problem. But how well are we able to think? It's an emerging economy globally. But we must think. It's not just about thinking. How do we operationalize what we are thinking, the ideas that we are thinking? And how do we, more importantly, scale up? I can tell you in Nigeria, there are lots of ideas that have come up in Nigeria. But these ideas have not been scaled. And until we scale up, we cannot solve any problem. You know, as we go deep into the 21st century, definitely the issues of access to health, access to education, access to the basic needs of life are going to be cropping up at the bottom of the pyramid. And I tell you, as we create more wealth, never have we created wealth in the history of the world that we are creating now. As we are creating more wealth, that's the same way we're creating poverty and inequality. So how do we address these issues? Ladies and gentlemen, I have come today to tell us that indeed we can address these issues if only we think, if only we be innovative. And thanks to globalization and technology, we have at our advantage disruptive technologies.
how do we utilize the disruptive technologies at our disposal to change the world, to lift people out of the bottom of the pyramid. Until we lift people out of the bottom of the pyramid, I assure you, triggers will begin to emerge, and the bottom of the pyramid will begin to erupt. And I hope we will not be around when it begins to erupt. And even if we are not around, it will also affect our children. And so the more reason why we need to think through society's issues. Are people doing it already? Yes, people are doing it. The Bridge International Academies in East Africa, over 200,000 children who have had access to education. In this part of the world, what is stopping it? Why can we not scale what is happening? Agriculture. We think agriculture is one of our greatest potential. We think natural resource endowment are some of our greatest potentials, but no. Our greatest potential lies here. And until the very moment we begin to use our brain to think of solutions, then we'll remain where we are. Thank you very much for listening.